Bitcoin news roundup. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin Gold. We're going to be talking about what's happening over in Africa, who the naysayers of Bitcoin are, darn those naysayers, and of course we're looking at some of the price predictions for Bitcoin because that's always fun. Before we get into all of that, we're going to be giving a quick shout out to everyone who has been hitting that like button, and of course all the subscribers to the channel. That's the old subscribers. Thank you so much everyone who's sticking with me. That's the new subscribers. Welcome big time to the channel. And that is you. If you have not subscribed yet, button's just right down there, guys. Of course, if you want to follow me over on steemit.com, that's also super appreciated, or you can also support me over on Patreon. And of course, this is not professional financial advice, guys. This is just a dude talking about cryptocurrencies. Let's get into it. Bitcoin, $5,906.28 at the time of recording this video. Market cap is about $98.2 billion. Not bad, although it is a bit down on the past few days. We have seen prices for Bitcoin nearing $6,200 US as an average. Of course, people have been paying well above that market price. If you, for example, look at the moment at the Bitcoin markets, obviously Bitfinex continues to absolutely kill it. Those guys make so much money, it's crazy. But of course, the real interesting thing here is that the biggest buyers of Bitcoin are still the Koreans and the Japanese, supporting the market big time. Bitthumb, Bitflyer, Coin1, of course Bitfinex, Hong Kong based exchange. So really still seeing massive push from East Asia for Bitcoin. Now, we are currently at block 491,394. Now, by the time most of you guys watch this video, probably the Bitcoin gold split will have happened. It's supposed to happen at block 491,407. A lot of different exchanges came really late to the party in saying whether they would support it or not. Bitflyer, for example, will be crediting accounts over in Japan. Others will not be supporting it and have no plans to distribute that until they see that there's a working network. For example, Xife Exchange. So we might have to wait a while if you're on one of those Japanese exchanges for some reason. Jax has come out saying that they will not be supporting it. Of course, if you're in control of your private keys, you can always export your private keys. Same with Exodus as well. They've come out and said that they're not going to support Bitcoin Gold for good reasons, because Bitcoin Gold isn't really solving any problems. They're simply trying to move the centralization of mining from big ASIC miners across to big GPU miners. And of course, the fact that they have pre-mined 100,000 Bitcoin Gold is gross. And it just screams of a minority group of miners getting in here and trying to cash out big time. It's gross. It's gross, and I hope Bitcoin Gold fails personally. I don't think it solves any problems. I think it's just going to be a money drop. I don't see the community support for it. It might stay on the charts for quite a while as people trade it, as people cash out, but seeing something like that makes me really just disappointed. At least the Bitcoin Cash guys were much more honest in the way that they went about forming Bitcoin Cash, and you know, it's presented itself as an honest project, whereas Bitcoin Gold, I don't think is that kind of project. You know, we can have honest conversations about, okay, the merits of 2x, the merits of Bitcoin Cash. That's cool. Bitcoin Gold, though. Bitcoin Gold. Now, if you did keep your money on an exchange, if you for some reason didn't feel that you were confident in going through the process of keeping it in a hardware wallet or keeping it, you know, in one of your other wallets, then of course you could have left it on an exchange and you will be credited with your Bitcoin Gold when the network becomes ready. Now, this is a statement from Bittrex, and I really like their statement because it really puts out some important points for you about Bitcoin Gold as well. So not only do they bring up as well that Bitcoin Gold has pre-mined 100,000 Bitcoin Gold, but they don't have replay protection, they don't have adequate code, nobody knows who the code developers are, and the consensus is also not been formed. And they have been terrible at reaching out to exchanges, whereas normally coins are chasing exchanges trying to get listed, whereas Bittrex is actually asking them, please reach out to us so that we can list your coin, because people are going to want to trade it. Interesting. Binance as well will be distributing Bitcoin Gold to anyone who has Bitcoin sitting in their account. Bitfinex, the latest one to the party by far, I think, came out very, very late and said they will be implementing a chain split token for Bitcoin Gold. More details to follow later. Moving on to Africa. Over in South Africa, they did a recent survey asking different IT and tech savvy people, hey, you guys invested in cryptocurrencies? And only about 54%, 53.57%, to be exact, of people said yes, but most of them have very, very, very small investments. Only a couple of people going big on Bitcoin, 1.87%. It'd be interesting to ask American tech investors and see where that is, or, you know, Australian tech people. I think if you ask Japanese tech people, you'd probably get a much higher number, but that'd be an interesting survey to do around the world, actually. Nevertheless, across the border there in Zimbabwe, Bitcoin is breaking all kinds of price records in cash-strapped Zimbabwe. Now this is really, really interesting. Bitcoin's trading for almost $10,000 in Zimbabwe. I know we did a story on Bitcoin in Zimbabwe recently, where it was trading for around $7,500, if I remember correctly. That was at the time that Bitcoin was officially around $5,000. Why is this happening? Well, it's very interesting for me because, in a way, Zimbabwe is like a perfect case study. This is the Zimbabwe Bitcoin case study, but really, if you think about what Bitcoin is and what fiat currency is, especially in a place like Zimbabwe with horrendously corrupt government, for example, where they've seen massive inflation over the years, hyperinflation, of course, as it's called, mind-blowing percentages of inflationary growth in their own local currency every year, to the point where people are taking shopping bags full of money to buy a loaf of bread. That is the kind of craziness that you see with weak, government-controlled currencies. And so what are people doing? They're turning to foreign fiat currencies, but more importantly, they're turning to Bitcoin because they see the exact same opposite happening with Bitcoin. They look at their own currency, well, it went down by, 1,000% last year, whereas Bitcoin went up by 8,000% or 7,000% last year. Where would you rather have your money if you were a Zimbabwean? I know where my money is. So that's very interesting. Of course, similar story is playing out currently in Venezuela, and we'll see similar stories continue to play out in cash-strapped countries around the world, where their own local currencies and their own corrupt governments have destroyed their economies to such an extent that their own money is worth nothing. Bitcoin does suffer from the problem of having high transaction fees and slow transactions. Yes. Dash, for example, has been very active in Venezuela. They're filling out conferences to talk about Dash. It, of course, very cheap transaction fees and, much quicker than Bitcoin as well. So I'm not saying Bitcoin is going to be the financial solution for these countries as a day-to-day medium, but you can really understand why people are investing in it. I mean, not just in Zimbabwe, but it provides a fantastic case study why the heck you should get into Bitcoin and, cash out at least a certain percentage of your fiat currency, because even US dollars or New Zealand dollars, many of these currencies are on a long-term trend of losing value as inflation of these currencies continues to grow. Bitcoin, however, massive growth, or even the currencies that are performing well are not growing anywhere near the rate of Bitcoin. Now, about the question of mass adoption. I love this infographic, by the way. You're the one, Bitcoin. Okay. Why is Africa slow on the Bitcoin uptake? And you might actually take this same question and apply it to South America. You might take the same question and apply it to Central America, the Caribbean, Central Asia, South Asia. Well, South Asia's, it's getting very popular in India, for example. But nevertheless, the Middle East, countries like Lebanon, countries like Iran, we don't hear a lot about it. And we hear some stories coming out of Iran, for example, about Bitcoin. I'm not saying that people there aren't using it by any means, but they're underserved markets. Particularly when you look at places like Africa. Yeah, we see some countries in Africa that are getting into Bitcoin. South Africa is getting into it. Nigeria is getting into it a lot. We hear a lot of news stories out of Nigeria. I think that's fantastic for the Nigerians, fantastic for the South Africans. Obviously, the Zimbabweans are paying a massive premium on it, but hey, you know what? Even if you're paying $10,000 for a Bitcoin today and you hodl that sucker, it's going to be worth $500,000 in 10 years or whatever that timeline may be. Still a good investment. Still a good investment. It's crazy. You can literally pay massive premiums on Bitcoin. Once you have it, you just got to hodl it. You're good. You're good to go. Now, this is an important story because it makes you realize just how far away from mainstream adoption we are. How much of the population globally hasn't even heard the word Bitcoin yet. That's amazing because for people like me, for people like you, we live and breathe Bitcoin all day long. We're always thinking about it or think, man, Bitcoin's cool. It's the money of the future. People don't even know about it. Or the infrastructure simply doesn't exist for them. And look, different companies are putting satellites into space which are going to help access these markets. And that's really cool. That's really cool. If we can reach these people, it's going to be very, very, very important moving forward to reach these people, to get more people involved. But then again, you got to think, wow, what's going to happen with the price when all these different people start getting involved in cryptocurrencies? And again, it may not be all in Bitcoin, although of course Bitcoin will still be the big one, but you know, people might be looking for Litecoin, people will be looking for Dash, these, especially the ones with really, really low transaction fees. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this story continues to unfold in the underserved parts of the world. There's definitely an important conversation to be had there about people who don't even know about Bitcoin, who live in villages, there's no power, but they have mobile phones, you know, and they can charge the mobile phones on solar. And if you can get a satellite signal to them, they can get Bitcoin. It's coming, guys. It's coming. That being said, while people in third world developing countries, such as Zimbabwe or Venezuela, are going big on Bitcoin, institutional money is still a bit shy. Now, for some reason, somebody asked this clown what he thinks about Bitcoin, and for some reason, people thought that was an important story. So Saudi Prince Al-Walid says Bitcoin is going to implode. Now, of course, this is a guy whose business model is based on the petrodollar and whose, you know, primary earner for their economy is, of course, oil. And obviously oil is institutional to the global system as it is at the moment. But Bitcoin's the money of the future here, guys. I don't know why this guy was asked about Bitcoin, but this is obviously, again, another person who doesn't understand Bitcoin, unless he's just trying to pull a Jamie Dimon and trying to put a little bit of FUD in so that he can get in and buy up $1 billion of Bitcoin. Gotta watch out for those guys. Gotta watch out for those guys. Might be cleverer than you think. Now, someone who's definitely not as clever as we may think, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Bitcoin on dark web is a big problem. Why do some of these people, who's asking Jeff Sessions about Bitcoin? I guess it must be in relation to, of course, the illegal drugs that could be bought with Bitcoin. Now look, you gotta keep it real, guys. Do people buy drugs with Bitcoin? Yeah, sure. Do people do nefarious things with Bitcoin? Oh yeah, absolutely. People are buying all kinds of weird porn with it, and you know, buying that wacky tobacco and all these funny things with the Bitcoin there. But because it's money, you don't hear them coming out and saying US dollars are a big problem, because that's what most people buy their drugs with in America. That's what most people buy their illegal whatever with in America. Bitcoin's an incredible minority of that. So to see him coming out saying that Bitcoin is the problem, not everything else, and of course the institutional decisions that keep drugs illegal in America and all the rest of it, that's a whole different conversation for another day. Why do people ask these clowns? Slightly more measured statements, at least from the Canadians. So the CEO of the Royal Bank of Canada says that, well, you know, Bitcoin is not a fraud. Thank God. At least he says, hey, it's not a fraud, it's not fraudulent, but he sees it as just a way to facilitate criminal activity of moving money in an undetected way. And look, again, yeah, there's criminality happening in the Bitcoin world, and anybody who, for example, takes part in BitPetite, if it's not a complete 100% scam, then you are literally signing up for money laundering. That is the service that they offer. We're laundering money here, guys. And you know, to publicly put your name to that, I see YouTubers who are promoting BitPetite, and I'm thinking, you're literally advocating for money laundering. Have you thought about the implications of that? So look, is there criminality in it? Yes, but there's criminality in everything. The big banks are the biggest criminals ever, guys. The stuff they've done is unspeakable. And to say that, you know, because a minority of the population use Bitcoin for nefarious purposes, it's probably the banks doing it anyway. They probably thought, oh, Bitcoin, great. It's another way we can, you know, launder money for people. I don't know, I'm just ranting there, guys. Okay. This is an interesting article that was written on Forbes. Actually, Forbes has been talking a lot about Bitcoin recently. Now, this is an article by Laura Shin. She said, will this battle for the soul of Bitcoin destroy it? Now, look, she goes into a lot about 2x and all these different things. And look, there's a big conversation to have about 2x. And we're going to have that conversation one of these days here soon. But the interesting things, and I wanted to actually point to these statistics because, again, we're so far away from mainstream adoption here, guys. And yet demand is just booming. Booming. Every day on Coinbase, 35,000 new accounts open. Over the weekend, that hit 50,000. That is just Coinbase, guys. That's just Coinbase. We're not talking about Bitfinex. We're not talking about BitThumb. We're not talking about CoinOne, Kraken, Bitstamp, any of these. A few 100,000 people a day, potentially, are signing up and starting new accounts. This is part of the reason why we see Bitcoin surging. Now, we're seeing a massive surge at the exact time that there's all of this uncertainty in the market. There's all this confusion in the market. I don't think it's good for new people coming in to think, oh, wait, what's this Bitcoin Gold stuff? And what's this Bitcoin Cash? And well, what's the Segwit 2X? And the sooner these conversations are decided, the better it will be for Bitcoin moving forward. So we'll continue on that later. Some price predictions for you. Bitcoin is heading to $10,000. Says a CNBC survey. Of course it's heading to $10,000. Some dude over on Wall Street said $25,000 by 2022. And I want you to stop and think about that for a second. Bitcoin today is at $6,000, let's say, approximately. If you bought a Bitcoin today for $6,000, is there... Well, okay, maybe there's some stocks you get into and things like this. There's other ways to make that kind of money by 2022. There is. There's plenty of other ways. But just think as a passive investment. You buy it, you throw it in the bank, you know, or I guess, you know, so to speak, put it in your hardware wallet, whatever. And you just hold on to that. And I feel like that's an incredibly conservative estimate by 2022 to have a $25,000 Bitcoin, to be honest, considering the statistics I just gave you. Hundreds of thousands of people around the world every day signing up, trying to get Bitcoin. You don't think demand's going to go up for something that has a very limited supply? I'm telling you, in the future, you're going to tell people like, yeah, I've got like 3 Bitcoin or 5 Bitcoin. And you're like, oh, you have 5 Bitcoin? Oh my God. Because it'll be like, I have 0.00001 Bitcoin here. I've got, 200,000 Satoshis, and I think that's really cool. But you have a whole Bitcoin. Wow. You must have got in really early. This is a very conservative estimate. But nevertheless, making $19,000 on your investment in the course of 5 years, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Now, we see some much more bullish estimates coming out as well. Bitcoin, $60,000 by summer 2018. Of course, that would give us the $1 trillion market cap. Now here they're conflating Bitcoin and crypto market cap, but if we saw a $60,000 Bitcoin, that would be just Bitcoin alone. Personally, I think that's a little too optimistic, but it's Bitcoin, guys. All estimates, all predictions are completely off the table, basically. Is Bitcoin going to keep going up? Absolutely. Will it hit $60,000 per Bitcoin in 2018? It's 10x. It's 10x. It's only gone up 8 times this year. 8 times. So this last time this year, it was at about 650 or something like that. So we've seen about 8 times growth, approximately, depending on the day and the hour, whether it's 7.5 times growth or 8 times growth in Bitcoin. This would, of course, assume that we're going to see a 10 times growth in Bitcoin. Highly possible. Again, think of all the money coming into Bitcoin, all the people who don't even know about it yet, all the people who are signing up every day trying to get their hands on some Bitcoin. You got to buy it, you got to hodl it, guys. You got to buy it, you got to hodl it. And that's it. It's a simple process. You buy your Bitcoin, you hold your Bitcoin. You buy your Bitcoin, you hold your Bitcoin. And keep living your life. Interesting to see where it will go. Again, it's possible. I'm pessimistic that it'll be a $1 trillion market cap in 2018, but at the same time, I would not be surprised in the least bit. I think something like a $700 billion market cap sounds pretty reasonable. Would I be surprised by $1 trillion? No, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be, because to be honest, you could throw any number out there, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. And to finish up, guys, Satoshi Nakamoto, he has about 1 million Bitcoins. That's an ungodly amount of Bitcoin. If he had, if he were to cash out today, he would have about $6 billion US. But of course, Satoshi Nakamoto would not cash out for US dollars, because why would you do that? The interesting thing is, though, if it does get to $1 trillion market cap, Satoshi Nakamoto will be worth $60 billion. And of course, a $60,000 Bitcoin is just the beginning, guys. It's just the beginning. I'd say we might not reach it next year, potentially. It could go way past that. And of course, if we look at 5 years down the road, are we going to have a $6-7 trillion market cap for Bitcoin? It's really possible. It's really possible. And in that situation, think about how rich Satoshi Nakamoto would be. He's going to come out of the woodworks one day, and he'll come out, he'll just be some little nerdy tech dude and just be like, richest man on the planet. Nice. Nice. So we'll see how that goes. God bless you, Satoshi Nakamoto. Good work, man. Good work. Anyway, that is all from the news roundup today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time, guys.